Good afternoon. My name is Greg Hahn. I'm the chairman of the board for the Indianapolis Public Transportation Corporation, and welcome to our May Directors Meeting. It's May 15th, 2025, and it's 4:00 p.m. At this time, we will call to order and do the roll call. Bob Fryer, Chief Counsel.
Good afternoon, members of the board. Would you please indicate your attendance when I call your name? Director Slash, Director Quick,
Present.
Director Fagan, Director Wilson, Director Gardner,
Present.
and Chairperson Hahn.
Present.
Mr. Chair, we have a quorum. I will note that one member is participating virtually, so all votes taken today will have to be by roll call vote.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Next, we're going to do the awards and commendations, and that'll be done by our president and CEO, Jennifer Purrs. And do we have any this month?
We do. Thank you. Hi, everybody. President CEO Jennifer Purrs. We will start, as always, with our safe drivers list. We have a list of operators who have been recognized for their safe driving for the month of April. I'm going to give them a second to pull that up so that you all can see the list. The folks on the list received a National Safety Council patch, pin, and certificate in recognition of their continued safe driving. I always recognize one person from the list. I'm going to pull off Mr. Sanders today. Mr. Sanders has been with us for 11 years, 10 of which he has been a safe driver. So thank you for your service, Mr. Sanders. Next, we have our May Operations Employee of the Month, Angela Heitman. I'm going to read a little bit from her nomination. Ms. Heitman consistently demonstrates an outstanding attitude when interacting with passengers and fellow operators. Angela's nominator recounted how professionally Angela responded to an accident in which she was involved. Despite the stressful situation, Angela maintained her composure and immediately shifted her focus to calming the other driver who was shaken after her first accident. She approached the driver with kindness and empathy, providing reassurance that everything would be all right. Angela's ability to convey calmness not only eased the other driver's anxiety, but also helped to establish a positive atmosphere at the scene of the incident. After the situation was resolved, the other driver expressed her deep appreciation for Angela's professionalism and compassion, making a point to highlight how exceptional she was at her job. It was a testament to Angela's dedication to her role and her ability to positively impact those around her, even in challenging circumstances. Thank you so much, Angela. Next is our Garage Employee of the Month, Jarrett Gwen. Jared is a general laborer in the facilities department who works alongside a counterpart to maintain the bus tracks and fleet maintenance area. He has taken the initiative to cover the area and help keep operations running during a recent staff shortage. Mr. Gwynn holds himself to a high standard and takes great pride in his work. He is always willing to lend a helping hand when and where it is needed. Jarrett strives to keep the large areas assigned to him clean and organized and is always on the watch for any potential safety issues. We very much appreciate his efforts. And finally, welcome to our new board member. We are thrilled to have Adrian Slash joining our board of directors. I'm going to give a little bio, Adrian. I hope you don't mind. Adrian Slash received her bachelor's degree in political science from Hampton University in Hampton, Virginia. By day, she's a talent development professional in the healthcare industry, and in the remainder of her time, she considers herself a community resource by supporting various community efforts. And the list of community efforts is unbelievable. She comes from a family of community servants and considers it an honor to serve others, which is so clear. Adrian is the chairwoman of the Indiana Civil Rights Commission, board vice chair for Dress for Success Indianapolis, and a board member at the Indianapolis Urban League, Reese Center Indiana, and Six Sigma Racial Equity Institute, after having served many other organizations over the years. To date, she's had the opportunity to lead many civic initiatives as well. She's been honored as a member of the IBJ 40 Under 40 and as a 2017 National Urban League Young Professionals Hero in the Movement. She's an Indianapolis Foundation Fellow, a Tobias Leadership Fellow, and an Exchange Leadership Fellow. She has many more accolades, and we are so honored that she's chosen to give some of her time, very precious time, I'm sure, to us. Adrienne is a proud member also of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated and the Junior League of Indianapolis, and is the proud dog mom to 2 fur children, my favorite. Welcome, Adrienne, to our board of directors. We're really excited to work with you. Thank you. And that is all I have for you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jennifer. At this point in time, I'd like to take a chair's personal point of privilege and just for a couple of minutes here, talk about our dear friend and past board member, Mr. Bill Stinson, who most of you, if not all of you know, passed away very unexpectedly a couple of weeks ago. Bill was a very close personal friend of mine, as well as his wife, the Honorable Jane Stinson, federal judge. He was also a good friend of all of our other board members and many of the staff here at Indigo. He fit in very quickly and was made a tremendous contribution in a very short period of time, actually. Just for reference, Bill grew up on the east side of downtown Indianapolis. He was a graduate of Cathedral High School and then went to Xavier University in Cincinnati. He worked in Cincinnati for a short period of time and then became very involved with the Marion County Democrat Party and got into politics. And then when Evan Bayh was elected governor, ended up serving at the state of Indiana in several capacities. But the one that he became most famous for, and I mean famous, he was appointed the head of the Indiana State Fair Commission. And while he was doing that, he substantially upgraded the facilities and actually broke the all-time record for attendance in 2004 with over 900,000 people attending the Indiana State Fair. And his accomplishments are still there. He built new buildings, remodeled, and changed the entire impact of the state fair that it has on the state and obviously with Indianapolis. After that, he went into the private sector for several years, but then was called back into public service to join the Indianapolis Airport Authority, where he was the director of public affairs. And he had just retired from that position, I think over 10 years, when he joined the Indigo board. And he brought his years of excellent service and energy and made an immediate impact here at Indigo and in the community. He became very active and became a huge supporter of Indigo. He will be greatly missed by all of us. And again, our prayers and thoughts are with him and his family. And I just want to say a huge thank you to Bill Stinson as one of our past board members. Thank you very much. Next, we're going to go to the regular agenda, and it's item number 3, and we will begin with action item A1, and that's consideration approval of our April 17th, 2025 board member meetings. And are there any questions or comments concerning the board minutes?
I move the adoption of the minutes.
Okay. There's a motion to consider and second. And Bob, I think you said we need to do a roll call.
That is correct. On the present motion, directors, please indicate your vote when I call your name. Director Slash,
Abstain?
Director Quick, Director Fagan, Director Wilson.
Aye.
Director Gardner,
Aye.
Chairman Hahn.
Aye. All right. Thank you very much. Next is action item A2, and that is a public hearing on the consideration and approval of resolution number 2025-03, and that's authorizing the lease of real property located at 9350 East 30th Street. This is a public hearing. If anyone desires to speak, please, you should put your name on the list. That is with the board's administrative staff. And if you did and your name is called, please come up to the podium and state your name. You will be given 2 minutes to provide comments. We would kindly ask that your comments be directed solely to the proposed lease of the property. And before taking public comment, our Chief Legal Officer, Bob Fry, will make the presentation. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It is recommended that the Board of Directors, after holding a public hearing today, approve and adopt resolution number 2025-03, authorizing Indigo to enter into a lease agreement with Terminal Holdings 3 LLC, an Indiana limited liability company, to lease the real property located at 9350 East 30th Street in Indianapolis for a term of 10 years, with the first year's rent being $27,500 per month, triple net, with 3% annual increases thereafter, for purposes of the operation of the Indigo Access Program. As most board members are probably aware, as a recipient of FTA funding, Indigo is required to provide paratransit services to individuals with disabilities who cannot independently navigate or access fixed route bus service. That is our program known as Indigo Access. It is a reservation-based shared ride service providing services to those who meet certain criteria established by the US DOT pursuant to the American with Disabilities Act. Although federal regulation requires service within only 3/4 of a mile of fixed routes, Indigo Access operates throughout all of Marion County 7 days a week and with the same hours as local service. At this time, Indigo lacks suitable facilities to house and operate its paratransit services. Currently, administrative offices and customer eligibility assessment center is at the West Michigan Street facility, whereas vehicle storage and fleet operations are temporarily operating out of this East Campus facility, and makeshift facilities are not really well suited for it. In short, none of Indigo's existing properties can fully house all of the paratransit operations, which is why Indigo is interested in leasing 9350 East 30th Street. That property has been determined to be ideal for Indigo Access because it is 7.6 acres in size, providing plenty of parking for all the paratransit vans and employees. It's fully fenced. It contains an existing office and maintenance building that can house the administrative and maintenance operations with relatively little investment, as would be required for building a new facility or further investing in the West Michigan Street location to make it workable. As a municipal corporation, Indigo has to follow state law in leasing property, and that there's basically 4 required steps. The first is that the board receive a petition signed by 50 or more taxpayers in Marion County supporting the effort to lease the property. We received that petition on February 14th of this year, after which we started commencing lease negotiations with the landlord. We have reached a tentative understanding with the landlord, but now the next step is that the board must make a finding that the structure is needed for Indigo operations. The board must hold a hearing, which it is doing today. And then finally, public notice of the execution of the lease must be published in the newspaper, which is something Indigo staff will take care of if the board in fact approves this lease. So at today's public hearing, any person in attendance may be heard as to basically 2 issues the public can comment on. Number 1 is whether the lease is necessary, and number 2, whether the rent is fair and reasonable. After the close of the public hearing and discussion by the board, it can then take a vote on whether or not to proceed with this lease or not. I will note, as far as any questions about the fairness and reasonableness of the rent, we do have in attendance here with us today Mr. Gordon Hendry of HRE Advisors, which is our real estate broker that helped us broker this deal. And he could probably answer any questions you might have about the fair market value of the rent. And with that, Mr. Chair, my presentation is concluded. I can try to answer any questions you want. But after that, we'll turn it over for public comment.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Is there anyone here that has signed up and wishes to speak? Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I've got a couple of questions for Gordon, if that's appropriate at this point, or you want?
sure.
Hey, Gordon, oh, I saw you somewhere. Hey, Gordon. First, thanks for coming. And also thanks for the email that I apparently have either deleted or filed, and I don't know where I filed it. But I wanted to have you help explain the kind of the process, because you had mentioned that the leasing market for this type of facility in Indianapolis is really tight, and you were able to negotiate us down to what I think is a really good deal for Indigo. I'm just wondering, is there a landmine in there somewhere that we should be aware of?
First off, thank you, Director Wilson, for your question. My name is Gordon Hendry with HRA Advisors. I've been a commercial real estate broker for 15 years, primarily working with government and education clients. And I have been very proud to work with Indigo on a number of successful transactions, including this building. To answer your question, no, I don't believe there are any landmines. As I put in my email, this is a very specialized facility that we're leasing. It's not just a simple industrial building. It's a maintenance facility really specific to, the kind of buses and other vehicles that can be worked on inside a secure facility. It's also got a significant amount of acreage, as Mr. Fry mentioned, which makes it all that more valuable. Fencing around it is very secure. Fencing is actually electric, so it's doubly secure. In terms of the rental rate, we did conduct a corrective on behalf of Indigo negotiation with the landlord, and I think we're based on comparable lease rates for similar facilities. We're, I would say, significantly, maybe not significant, but we are well under market rate. So I think we negotiated a very strong rental rate. Part of that is based on Indigo as a government agency and its credit and reliability as a tenant, and the fact that East Campus is here, so it's very close. So all of those are favorable in terms of an owner or landlord or a private tenant.
Okay, that's great. It's, when we were looking at the comps and you came in, I would say significantly lower. I just kind of wondered why, but you explained it brilliantly. So I appreciate it. Thanks, Gordon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I think that's it. Thanks, Gordon. Thank you very much. Seeing that we don't have anyone from the public wishing to comment, I will now close the public hearing and turn this matter over to the board for discussion. Are there any other questions or comments from the board besides what Rick had? Okay. I'll ask for a motion and second for consideration and approval of resolution number 2025-03, authorizing the lease of real property located at 9350 East 30th Street.
So moved.
Second.
And since this is an adoption of resolution, we'll need to do a roll call vote. Bob?
Directors on the present motion, please indicate your vote when I call your name. Director Slash,
Aye.
Director Quick, Director Fagan, Director Wilson,
Aye.
Director Gardner,
Aye.
Chairperson Hahn.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you very much. Next is action item A3, and it's consideration and approval of resolution number 2025-04, authorizing the sale of real property at 8905, 8915, and 8925 Madison Avenue. And again, the presentation will be done by our Chief Legal Counsel, Bob Fry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You're all going to get sick of hearing from me today. It is recommended the board approve and adopt resolution number 2025-04, authorizing Indigo to hire real estate broker to market and sell the real property it owns located at and commonly known as 8905, 8915, and 8925 Madison Avenue in Indianapolis. At its meeting in January of this year, the board adopted resolution number 2025-02, by which it made a finding that the sale of the Madison Avenue property is in Indigo's best interest and in the public interest. In that, to comply with state law in that resolution, the board also directed Indigo to get 2 appraisals, set the sale price at the average of those 2 appraisals, and then publish a public notice seeking bids at that price for a period of 60 days. Indigo had those appraisals done and published notice on February 21st, seeking bids for a 60-day period through April 22nd, 2025. No bids were received. Because no bids were received, Indigo would now like to proceed with having the property listed for sale on the open market, as any other property would typically be sold, and to do so with real estate broker Gordon Hendry of HRE Advisors, who you just met if you hadn't already met Mr. Hendry. As he indicated in his prior presentation, Mr. Hendry has advised Indigo in real estate matters for several years, including the purchase of this property that we sit in today. Accordingly, it is requested that the board adopt resolution 2025-04, by which it will authorize Indigo's president and CEO to engage HRE Advisors to market and sell the property and to compensate the broker a reasonable amount out of the gross proceeds of the sale, and also direct the president and CEO to publish a notice of the board's determination today to hire a broker, which is required by statute. Indigo staff will take care of that if the board approves this action. It is noteworthy that even though if the board approves this action today, we can start marketing the property, but no sale can be consummated until we come back to you with a proposed sale. So you will have the final word on it, on any sale of the property. With that, I could try to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions from the board?
I have one question, Bob, just for the sake of others in the room. Can you talk a little bit more about once we do list it in the open market, are we still required to look at something that's the minimum of the average of the 2 appraisals, or can we accept any offer that's reasonable as Mr. Hendry negotiates that for us?
Right. Yeah, that's a good question. We will begin the marketing at the average of the 2 appraisals, but we wouldn't necessarily be required to accept exactly that amount. We could accept more, we could accept less if it's a good offer.
Bob, just for clarity, so what we're doing now is authorizing Jennifer to hire Gordon to market the property. And then I thought I heard you say that if we get an offer, credible offer, then they come back to the board to actually sell it.
That's correct.
Is
The
that-
board has
am
to
I-
approve.
am I clear on
any.
that?
Yes.
Okay,
that-
all right.
Exactly right.
Yep. All right. I just wanted to make sure because I was, okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. I would ask for a motion and second in consideration and approval of resolution number 2025-04, authorizing the sale of real property at 8905, 8915, and 8925 Madison Avenue.
Second.
We need to do a roll call.
Directors on the present motion, please indicate your vote when I call your name. Director Slash,
Aye.
Director Quick, Director Fagan, Director Wilson,
Aye.
Director Gardner,
Aye.
Chairperson Hahn.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Thank you. Next is, we have action item A4, and that's consideration approval of the ADP contract, and that'll be presented by Britt Griffin. Sorry.
Is it on? Is the green button?
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah. Thank you. My name is Kirsten Seacrest. I'm the Director of Compensation and Benefits for the Department of People. I'm here on behalf of Britt Griffin, my leader, who is not able to join us today. And I wanted to speak regarding action item A4. So the recommendation is that the Board of Directors authorize the President and the Chief Executive Officer to enter into a four-year contract extension with ADP from June 1st of 2025 to May 31st of 2029 to provide IPTC with payroll, human resources, and time labor management systems. As some background information, ADP entered into the agreement with IPTC on May the 26th of 2011 to provide payroll and HR benefit software system services. ADP's Human Resources Information System, or the HRIS, integrates both payroll, benefits administration, talent management, and compliance all into one platform. This currently reduces redundancy and ensures data accuracy across all payroll and HR functions. The system reduces the labor cost associated with payroll, time tracking, and other administrative tasks. In addition, IPTC employees can access their payroll, their benefits, and personal information at any time, day or night, using the desktop or the mobile application that ADP currently provides us. ADP is the incumbent vendor providing payroll, human resources, and time labor management systems and services. The current integration supports HASTUS, ADP, and D365, and it's complex, and switching providers would result in substantial additional cost and risk. So the current contract expires on May the 31st of 2025. The payroll and the HR department is requesting a four-year extension to avoid a disruption of service starting on June the 1st, 2025, and ending on May the 31st of 2029. Current annual spend for the product is $251,057.32, and that would end on May the 31st of 2025. The 48-month agreement would go into effect on June 1st, 2025 through May 31st of 2029, and the total increase in the fees of $4,913.55 would be over the years of the agreement. So if you can see the agreement, it does show that for years 1 and 2, there would be no increase in price. However, for years 3 and 4, we would see about a 1% increase to the price. And so the final price for years 3 and 4 would be $246,899.67. And that increase would begin to go into effect on June the 1st of 2027. The fiscal impact at this point, the total cost of the procurement for the renewal of the ADP contract is within the approved 2025 operating budget. As it relates to DBE, XBE declarations, the operations budget would fund this contract, and therefore it does not require an established disadvantaged business enterprise program participation goal. So given the complexity and the nature of this opportunity, subcontracting possibilities were not available, what were limited for this product.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any questions from the board?
Hey,
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Oh, yeah. Yes, there is.
sorry about that. Just real quickly, that increase that you just referenced, is that an estimate, or is that's a locked in price?
It's actually a locked-in price.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, I'd ask for a motion and a second for the approval of the renewal of the ADP contract. And, okay, thank you. Second? All right. Bob?
Directors on the present motion, please indicate your vote when I call your name. Director Slash?
Aye.
Director Quick? Director Fagan? Director Wilson?
Aye.
Director Gardner?
Aye.
Chairperson Han?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for your presentation. Next is action item A5, and that's consideration and approval of Talk Desk phone services, and Mr. Michael Roth.
Good afternoon, directors. Mike Roth, Deputy Chief Transportation Officer. Good evening. I'm here to present a consideration for our phone services through TalkDesk. It's recommended that the Board of Directors authorize the President and CEO, Chief Executive Officer, to enter into a contract extension for 1 year from July 31st of 2025 through July 30th of 2026. This TalkDesk is essential software services to support our daily operations at Indigo Access. As a care center agent, the care center agents can take the calls from both paratransit and fixed route. I'll talk a little bit more about that in the background and discussion. The extension carries an additional contract value of $98,000, and that with a new contract total not to exceed $396,397. A little bit of background, TalkDesk is our cloud-based contact center solution for our fixed route, our bus rapid transit system, and Indigo Access, which consists of a knowledge base and telephone services that meet our current requirements, including scalability. This system also provides us with, if you were to call the customer service line at 635-3344, you would get a nice, lovely, welcoming message asking you to select a prompt that would take you to whichever question or department that you need. This discussion, a little bit of discussion, is the board did approve this contract back in 2019. The staff is proposing that we just do the 1-year extension at this time. The service will be funded through our local operations, our operating budget. And with the software licensing, the renewal will be completed using local funds. So at this time, there are no XBE solicitations for this, or they're unavailable for this procurement. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks a lot, Michael.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mike, I got one quick question. You mentioned in your discussion that you wanted to extend this, so that it would kind of better align with some other things that are happening.
Yes.
To mitigate some risk. Can you talk a little bit and tell me a little bit about what those other critical agreements are and what sort of your timeline for dropping all these things in?
Certainly. So 2025 was an extremely busy year for Indigo Access. We have a new paratransit provider who operates the paratransit and maintenance contract. We also have a new provider for the care center, which is our care center agents and our call center. So with that being said, we wanted to make sure that there was some consistency in keeping contracts or keeping services, as we didn't want it to cause a disruption not only to our customers but to our staff as they're learning the Indigo way and have the challenges before them to learn the processes that they need to operate the services. So with doing the contract extension, this gives us a little bit of relief. Also, I would like to add that the contract extension is much less expensive than doing a full new procurement of software.
So is it your intention then to put out another RFP at the end of this extension, or are you just looking to, I'm trying to, I get the mitigating risk part.
Sure.
I'm just wondering what the kind of the next step is.
Yeah, so it's a great question. The service we're all happy with. Like I said, we've had this since 2019, and there have been minimal issues with TalkDesk. Again, with it being cloud-based, it's relatively simple to use. The goal is eventually, yes, to go out and maybe see what costs are associated with new service. But again, like I said, the service that we have right now gives us everything that we need. So yes, but the goal is to look at that in about 6 months to actually start looking at the cost of new software.
Okay, great, thanks.
Any other questions for Michael? Okay. With that, we'd ask for a motion and second for consideration and approval of TalkDesk phone services.
So moved.
Second.
Directors on the present motion, please indicate your vote when I call your name. Director Slash, Director Quick, Director Fagan, Director Wilson, Director Gardner,
Aye.
Hahn.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you, directors.
Next is action item A6, and that's consideration and approval of the 2025 revisions to the Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan. And that presentation will be made by our Director of Risk and Safety, Mr. Brian Clem.
Ladies and gentlemen, Board of Directors, my name is Brian Clem, the Director for Risk and Safety for Indigo. And I bring to you action item A6, PTAS, Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan Reviews. So it is a recommendation that the Board of Directors accept and approve the 2025 revisions for the Indigo Public Transportation Safety Plan. A little bit of background in what this is. The plan is approved annually, set forth by the recommendations for the Federal Transit Administration under 49 CFR 673. The FTA finalized the PTAS rule in July 19 of 2018. This requires transit agencies receiving federal funds to develop and implement safety plans. PTAS is a formal top-down, organizational-wide approach to managing risk and safety and ensuring the effectiveness of transportation agencies' safety practices and culture. The plan aims to enhance transit safety by establishing target and metrics. It defines safety accountability at all levels throughout the agency that we have here with Indigo. A little bit of discussion. The PTAS plan is audited and it's revised annually and includes updates from the federal agency, the Federal Transit Agency recommendations, and also requires review and approval from the Safety and Security Committee. The proposed draft and update in 2025 looked at our safety performance targets. That was completed in late February by the SSC, and we had their review and input on the information within the plan. With no recommendations of change, the plan now moves forward and was endorsed by the Chief Safety Officer, Brian Clem, and the President and CEO, Jenny. And next, the plan must be adopted and approved by the Board of Directors for the Transit Agency, and that's where you come in. Fiscal impact, failure to comply with this requirement subjects IPTC to a range of FTA enforcement options, including being ineligible to receive FTA grant funds until the recipient satisfies compliance with the FTA. So ladies and gentlemen, that ends my presentation to you on the PTAS review. Hopefully you've had time to review that, and I will take any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
As a sleep aid or just because it was so long?
Thanks, Brian. Are there any questions from the board? Okay, can we get a motion and a second for approval of the 2025 revisions to the Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan?
Directors on the present motion, please indicate your vote when I call your name. Director Slash, Director Quick,
Aye.
Director Fagan, Director Wilson, Director Gardner,
Aye.
and Hahn. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Brian. We now move to action item A7, and that's consideration and approval of IFB number 25-01-536 for janitorial services, and that'll be presented by our Director of Facilities, Daniel Hendricks.
Good afternoon, Board. Dan Hendricks, Director of Facilities. On this action item, is recommended that the Board of Directors authorize the President and CEO to enter into a multi-3-year contracts for janitorial services at multiple IPTC locations. Listed out, we have Contractor Enterprises for $72,000 for 1501 West Washington Street, the maintenance garage. Pristine Image, $23,868 for 8925 South Madison, the driver layover area. Well Done Services for $384,134 for 9503 East 33rd Street. East Campuses, Buildings A, B, and C. Lux Commercial for $31,200 for 6410 North College Avenue. That is the foundation and a driver layover. Lux Commercial for $655,200 for 201 West Washington Street, the Carson Transit Center. And Lux Commercial for $6,240 for 9255 Rising Road. That is the Purple Line terminus. Total amount for the 3-year contract, $1,172,642. Each contract gives IPTC the option to exercise 2 one-year extensions. Total amount not to exceed for each contract. Contractor Enterprises, $120,000 for the West Washington Street. Pristine Image for $39,780 for 8925 South Madison. Well Done Services for $643,639 for 9503 East 33rd Street. Lux Services Commercial for $57,200 for 6410 North College Avenue. Lux Commercial for $1,144,000 for 201 West Washington Street, the Julie Carson Center. And Lux Commercial for $11,960 for 9255 Rising Road. If both one-year options are exercised on all 4 contracts, the total for 5 years not to exceed $2,016,579. As a background, the janitorial services scope consists of ensuring compliance with safety and hygiene standards per OSHA and IOSHA, maintain a clean, sanitary, and welcoming environment across all facilities, ensure timely and accurate completion of cleaning tasks, collaborate with IPTC staff to address and resolve any facility-specific challenges, and to support long-term preservation and maintenance of ITPC facilities in adhering to best practices. The selected vendors are required to supply all labor, materials, and equipment needed to perform the services. IPTC will supply all the cleaning chemicals for all locations. The janitorial services contract will apply to IPTC properties listed below. For discussion, IPTC's procurement department released a solicitation for janitorial services on February 24th, 2025. IPTC provided detailed required service spreadsheet and scope of work for all locations to potential vendors. The procurement department received 7 responses and found that contractors, Pristine, Lux, and Well Done bids were responsive and responsible. Physical impact, this is to be funded by the operations budget. Our DBE, XBE declarations, we had an MBE of 15%, a WBE of 8%, VBE of 3%, and a DOBE of 1%. We found that Pristine is a MBE and a WBE supported. Well Done is also an MBE and a WBE. That, I'll take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Daniel. Are there any questions from the board?
I do have just maybe one. Thank you, Dan, and thank you for the details in regards to the the status of those contractors. That was certainly one question that was on my list. I appreciate that. Each of these contractors are all new to Indigo, or have any of these had cleaning contracts in the past?
One has been contracted as Pristine Image. They have the existing contract that is expiring.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, with that, Bob, we'll do a roll call.
Mr. Chair, we need a motion and second.
Motion. Second, please.
So moved.
Okay, now do the roll call.
Okay, directors on the present motion, please indicate your vote when I call your name. Director Slash, Director Quick,
Aye.
Director Fagan, Director Wilson, Director Gardner,
Aye.
Chairperson Han. Motion carries.
Okay, thanks. Thanks a lot, Daniel. Next is action item A9, and that's consideration and approval of the ISA utility reimbursement agreement, and that'll be presented by Rachel Wilson, our project manager.
Good afternoon, members of the board. I'm Rachel Wilson. And the recommendation is that the board of directors authorize the president and CEO to execute a reimbursement agreement with the City of Indianapolis Information Services Agency, known as ISA, for an amount not to exceed $341,210 to relocate fiber optic lines that conflict with the proposed Blue Line BRT design. Some background, Blue Line BRT utility relocation coordination is underway. Work plans outlining scope of work required for each impacted utility are near completion, and utilities are mobilized in the field to complete the work ahead of or concurrently with Indigo's Blue Line construction schedule. ISA fiber optic lines are part of this larger utility relocation effort that will be ongoing for the duration of the construction. There are fiber optic lines owned by ISA that are in conflict with our construction, requiring them to be either supported or relocated, in most cases lowered. ISA is the enterprise provider of information technology services and solutions for Indianapolis and Marion County. And the work is reimbursable since this is a city-county agency and not a public utility. The work will be performed by ISA's contractor called Clausen Communications. So the reimbursement agreement binds IPTC to reimburse ISA for relocations that their contractor performs according to their approved relocation work plan. ISA agrees to perform relocations within a specified time and maximum agreed upon cost. So this cost is part of the Blue Line project budget. And as far as DBE, XBE declarations, this is a reimbursement agreement and not a procurement of goods and services with any subcontracting, so DBE goals don't apply here. So with that, are there any questions?
Questions from the board? Okay. Can we get a motion and second? Okay, Bob?
Directors on the present motion, please indicate your vote when I call your name. Director Slash,
Aye.
Director Quick, Director Fagan, Director Wilson, Director Gardner,
Aye.
Chairperson Han. Motion carries. Mr. Chair, we did confer briefly. We inadvertently skipped item number 8 on the
I
agenda.
just want to give Dan a break.
I would,
Back to number 8 next.
Thanks a lot,
Yeah.
Rachel. All right, Dan, you're back up. And this is on consideration and approval to extend the shelter cleaning and maintenance contract.
Dan Hendricks, Director of Facilities. It is recommended that the Board of Directors authorize the President and CEO to extend the current contract 3 months with Shuck Corporation for the cleaning, maintenance, and repair of bus stops, BRT stations, shelters, and other transit amenities by the amount not to exceed $620,000 for a new contract of $5,600,000 $674,842. Background, this service is essential to IPTC to provide clean and safe public stops, shelters, and station areas for the community. The contractor is responsible for the cleaning, maintaining, repairing, and replacing approximately 3,000 bus signs, 215 shelters, 52 BRT stations, and more than 500 amenities, including trash receptacles, benches, and bike racks for BRT stations and fixed routes. IPTC has utilized contractors to perform the cleaning and maintenance services due to the specialized equipment and manpower needed. For discussion, in April 2021, Shuck Corporation was awarded the contract for the cleaning and maintenance of the bus stops and shelters, along with the service corridor, as the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. The contract will expire May 31st of 2025. IPTC is requesting to extend the contract by an additional 3 months through August 31st, 2025. A new solicitation for the bus shelter and maintenance services is currently on the street with bids due in later this month. The extension will ensure that services will not be interrupted due to any vendor transition. Funding source for this procurement is the operations budget. And for DBXB declaration, the Shuck Corporation committed to 17.5% participation under the current contract. With that, I'll take any questions you might have.
Any questions, Rick?
Yeah, so we're extending this for 3 months because we have bids out on the street. Can you explain to me what the circumstances were, that why didn't we put the bids out on the street in sufficient advance that we could get the responsive and responsible bidder on board before the contract run out?
The facilities department lost their director, manager, and some other personnel right at the time that should have been done. So with my hiring, it took time to create an SOW that would be appropriate for a contract this large.
Okay.
And to follow up on that, can you talk a little bit about next steps? So you're asking for the 3-month extension. Bids are due back here in a couple of weeks. You'll come back to us for approval. I'm wondering if the 3 months is sufficient.
Our best planning, yes, 3 months is sufficient. Our biggest concern is if we change contractors. Shuck has a lot of Indigo assets housed at their locations. Those would have to be transferred. And then the new offering, that there is language for that transfer that will take time to account for each piece that's moved. So we think we can do it in 3 months.
Okay.
I might be able to add to that. This is a bid, right? Is
Yeah,
it a bid?
it's a bid
Okay.
that's out,
So-
yes.
With a bid, we have to have a sealed bid opening, which I understand is later this month, and we have to select the lowest responsible bidder. So there should be ample time. We should probably be able to bring this to next month's meeting or July. But if we were doing a request for proposals, that's a lot more, a lengthier process. But because it's a bid, it should go pretty quickly.
Any other questions? Okay, with that, I'd ask for a motion and second for consideration and approval to extend the shelter cleaning and maintenance contract.
Directors on the present motion, please indicate your vote when I call your name. Director Slash,
Aye.
Director Quick,
Aye.
Director Fagan, Director Wilson, Director Gardner,
Aye.
Chairperson Han.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you, board.
Thanks, Dan. Next, we have action item A10, and that's consideration and approval of a contract with Reliable Transmission Service, RTS, presented by, I'm gonna mess this up. Theron. Boy. He's Director of our Preventive Maintenance and Repairs.
Yes,
Thank
good
you, sir.
afternoon. My name is Chano Balde, Director of Maintenance, Indigo. And I'm here to present this section 10, consideration for approval of a contract with Reliable Transmission Service, RTS. It is recommended that the Board of Directors authorize President and Chief Executive Officer to enter into a 2-year contract with Reliable Transmission Service to rebuild our B400 transmission for an amount not to exceed $349,000. So for the background, a transmission is a crucial equipment in the bus that require expertise and specialized technician to rebuild in case of failure. So Indigo has a fleet of B400 transmissions. Therefore, it is important that we get an experienced and qualified contractor to provide the rebuild and service that align with Indigo's goal of long-term stability of its service. So RTS, Reliable Transmission, has over 40 years of experience on heavy-duty transmission rebuild and overhaul. Also focus especially on Allison Transmission B400, the same transmission we have on our current fixed route buses. So for the discussion, Indigo has 123 buses equipped with B400 transmissions. In 2024, we had rebuilt 35 of those transmissions, and from our midlife program to unexpected failures. So to comply with Indigo procurement process and ensure optimum bus service, it is Indigo best interest to establish a transmission service contract with Reliable Transmission Service. RTS is an Allison certified vendor and remain Indigo preferred transmission service provider due to its long-standing experience, also cost effectiveness, as well as a consistent high-quality service provided in the past. So RTS also in this contract will provide 2-year warranty for all the transmission you'll be rebuilding for us. So the fiscal impact for this project is going to be on local funding, local operating funds. So for the DB XP declaration, there is no XP goals for this procurement because it is a local funded special procurement with only one approved local certified Allison vendor. I will be pleased to respond to any question you may have. Thank you.
Any questions? I'm really impressed with the 2-year warranty
Yes.
on that many engine or transmissions and the beating those things take. So great job.
Thank you.
I got one quick
Yeah,
question.
sure.
So obviously you're basing this on our historical experience with these transmissions. But what happens if we have, I mean, I don't know what the number of transmissions this contract will fix,
70.
but what happens if we have 72?
Yeah. So technically, this is an estimate. I cannot say for sure it's going to be exactly this. It's an estimate, but we implementing to have some kind of internal valve body rebuild that will reduce tremendously the number of transmission. We may not reach to this amount for sure.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So, but in the event we had some catastrophic failure for some number do we have a fallback plan, plan B?
The warranty. We have a warranty to
Okay.
take care of those.
Okay, good. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other questions, comments? If not, I'd ask for a motion and second for consideration and approval of the contract with Reliable Transmission Service.
Second.
Directors on the present motion, please indicate your vote when I call your name. Director Slash?
Aye.
Director Quick?
Aye.
Director Fagan? Director Wilson? Director Gardner?
Aye.
Chairperson Han? Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Next is action item number 11, A11. Consideration and approval of new task order with Burgess and Nipple for construction management services on the Washington Street BRT docking project and that'll be presented by Christian Cambrick.
Hello, Board of Directors. Good afternoon, or good evening now, possibly. This is action item A11, consideration and approval of new task order and contract term extension with Burgess and Nyepel, or BNN, for construction management services on the Washington Street BRT docking project. It is recommended that the Board of Directors authorize the President and CEO to execute a new task order and extend the contract term with BNN under RFQ 2303474 that includes construction management services on the Washington Street BRT docking project for an amount not to exceed $420,000. The Board of Directors approved the award of a construction management contract under the RFQ in 2023. This is a task order-based contract with specific scope and fee determinations for each new task order negotiated individually. To date, there have been 2 task orders totaling $184,271 with BNN issued for construction management on the CTC inductive charging project and the Near East Side Bus Stop Improvements Phase 1 project. If executed, this task order will include construction management services leading up to construction, during construction, and during the project closeout period. This task order will also extend the end of the on-call contract from October 31, 2026 to October 31, 2028. I'm not going to go through all of it, but the discussion section includes what construction management actually entails. Basically making good on our investment and supplementing Indigo in-house staff that don't necessarily have the time or expertise to administer a construction project full-time. This work is locally funded under the 2025 capital budget allocated for the project. The XPE participation to date on this contract is 32.8%. This task order includes XPE participation totaling 27.8%. From JQOL at 15.8%, LADS Consulting at 6.8%, North Point Engineering and Surveying at 4.5%, and Project Photodocs at 0.8%. And you can see their various XPE certifications listed there at the bottom. Happy to take any questions.
Any questions from the board? Okay. With that, would ask for a motion and second.
Second.
And roll call, Bob?
Directors, on the present motion, please indicate your vote when I call your name. Director Slash,
Aye.
Director Quick, Director Fagan, Director Wilson. Aye. Director Gardner,
Aye.
Chairperson Hahn. Motion carries.
Okay. Thank you very much, Christian. Next is action item A12, and that's consideration of approval for a design allowance for WSP to provide design services on the Blue Line BRT project, and that'll be done by our Director of Capital Projects, Mr. Matthew Duffy.
Good evening, directors. Matt Duffy, I'm the Director of Capital Projects here at Indigo. I'm here to recommend that the Board of Directors authorize a design allowance, the amount of $375,000 for Blue Line construction phase design services for WSP. They were awarded the design and engineering contract for the Blue Line back in 2018 under RFQ 1711-279. There have been 16 task orders to date, totaling a little over $20 million. So this, the current task orders cover construction administration design services through the completion of the Blue Line project. So typically we bring to you individual task orders that have individual scope and fees associated with them. We're requesting here, it's a little bit different, an allowance because we don't have the individual scope and fees necessarily agreed upon yet, and the timing and priority is not finalized yet. So we're looking for allowance in order to proceed with those so that we don't slow down the construction that is currently underway. And this will reduce the possibility for costly construction activity impacts. And it also minimizes the risk for consultants to proceed with work at risk, which we're always careful to do with our project partners on this.
The scope and fees will each be individually scrutinized, as they always are. If we're bringing individual task orders for approval, and we plan to bring these individual items as informational items to the board once they are finalized. This is funded through the Blue Line project, which has a variety of funding sources. And as we haven't finalized the overall scope and fee yet, we will bring those final DBE amounts to the board for your information once those are finalized. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thanks a lot, Matt. Any questions? All right. With that, I'll ask for a motion and second for consideration and approval of design allowance for WSP for design services on the Blue Line BRT project.
So moved.
Directors on the present motion, please indicate your vote when I call your name. Director Slash,
Aye.
Director Quick, Director Fagan, Director Wilson, Director Gardner,
Aye.
Chairperson Han.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thanks, Matt. Next is, excuse me, action item A13, and that's introduction of ordinance 2025-01, authorizing the acquisition of real property for local bus stop improvement projects. In my capacity as a member of this board, I'm introducing this proposed ordinance. A written copy of the proposed ordinance has been provided to each board member, and a copy has been available for public inspection at Indigo's executive office. And I will now turn this over to Project Manager Rachel Wilson and Chief Legal Officer Bob Fry. Take it away.
Hello again, members of the board. I will start off with the recommendation and background and then turn it over to Bob to get further into the discussion and more detail regarding the ordinance. So the recommendation is that the Board of Directors approve and adopt proposed ordinance number 2025-01, authorizing IPTC to acquire certain real property interests necessary for local bus stop improvement projects undertaken in accordance with IPTC's ADA transition plan. So some background. Indigo is implementing the ADA transition plan, which was presented to the Board of Directors back in June of 2021 for the improvement of local bus stops. And the goal of that plan is to bring all of our local bus stops around the city into ADA compliance. We have 3 local bus stop packages underway right now in various stages of design and construction where certain real property interests, both temporary and permanent, will need to be acquired to construct the projects as designed. So if IPTC is not able to reach an agreement with individual property owners for the acquisition of the portion of their property needed for the project, then it will have to resort to eminent domain to appropriate the property. But before doing so, the board must first adopt an ordinance authorizing the exercise of the power of eminent domain. So I will add that when we scope and design these, we try our hardest to avoid this situation. But as we get further into these projects and improving all these stops, there just isn't enough right-of-way everywhere to fit an 8-foot deep boarding pad everywhere. So we have to get creative or resort to this if we don't have willing sellers. So with that, I will turn it over to Bob.
So members of the board, you as a board have authority to acquire real estate on behalf of the corporation for its operations. But if in the event we would have to proceed to eminent domain because we can't reach agreement with the property, you must authorize that by adoption of an ordinance. So this is, today we're just introducing ordinance 2025-01 that would give us that authorization if needed. Attached to the ordinance, which you all have, is a list of the 13 properties where that's a potential, a possibility. As Rachel said, we make every effort to work with property owners to avoid eminent domain, but there are times it's just unavoidable. I'll give you one example on one of Rachel's projects. We have a nursing facility who's very interested in donating the right-of-way because they want the bus stop there, but it turns out their property is encumbered by a complex federal mortgage from the Housing and Urban Development Department. department of the federal government, and they simply can't give it to us. Like, we're going to have to file eminent domain on that just to extinguish HUD's mortgage interest in like a small sliver of property. And that's what we're talking about too. We're talking about 1 to 6 feet maybe of somebody's frontage, right? Just as Rachel explained, to sort of, fit in the bus stop within ADA guidelines. So again, by statute, you as a board must adopt an ordinance that generally describes the properties to be acquired, declares it's in the public interest and necessity, and again, authorizes us to use eminent domain if necessary. So that's the very purpose of this ordinance. Again, it's just being introduced today. We will have a public hearing then at your next meeting in June on the ordinance, which gives the public an opportunity to give testimony or evidence for or against the proposed ordinance. And following that public hearing, you can then take a vote to adopt or not that ordinance. With that, I'm sure Rachel and I can answer any questions you have, but again, this is just an introduction. There's no action today.
Bob, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Bob or Rachel, I'm just not familiar with a lot of these addresses. Are any of them residential properties?
They are.
Okay.
It's a mix. Sometimes it's commercial and yeah, sometimes it's residential.
Explain to me, we're not talking about taking a piece of somebody's front yard. We're talking about right on the road, right? So it would be like
Right.
on this side of the sidewalk.
The situation is you have sidewalk along the road that's usually 4 or 5 feet deep, and the right-of-way line is often at the back of the sidewalk, and 4 or 5 feet won't get us there, so we need 8 feet. So we really just need a few more feet and about 10 to 15 feet wide. I mean, it's small. And some of these appraisals, when they come in for these little slivers of land, they're, $300. Yeah, it's very small pieces of land.
It's not like we're gonna, walk up to Mrs. Smith and say, we're gonna take half your front yard for this,
No,
right?
no.
Okay, I just want to make sure I was clear on that. Also, Bob, when we are we gonna get in a food fight with the federal government over this nursing home or?
Not likely, no. It's just a formality. You spent time in federal service, right? Trying to get a HUD mortgage partially released could take months, if not years. I've seen this several times where we just had no choice in other, not at Indigo, but other government entities I've worked for, where we just had no choice but to use eminent domain because of not just HUD, sometimes just private banks. They won't even reply to you. A lot of times or they'll want I've had situations where a bank wanted $30,000 just to review their file and do a partial release of mortgage, and that's just unreasonable. So.
Okay, all right, good, thanks.
I might add too, I didn't think to add, because this would be public right of way, any permanent right of way, there are some instances where we might just need a temporary easement for construction, right? So then it would revert back to the property owner. And if we tear up their yard, we'll seed it and all that. But if it's permanent right of way, we will give the right of way over to the city of Indianapolis when the project's done. Or there might be some instances where I think property owners have agreed to donate, and we just have them donate it directly to DPW, which we've conferred with them, and they're good with it because Indigo doesn't really own right of way, right? The city is the owner and operator and regulator of the right of way.
Have a contest to get the property and then turn it over.
Yes. Yeah.
Any other questions, comments? I assume we need to take a vote on this, right? We do not.
No, not this month. We'll have a public
Okay,
hearing
all right.
next month, at which time you'll vote.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Next, we move to information items. And item number, let's see, item I1 is finance report presented by Bart Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Bart Brown, CFO. With the board's indulgence, I'm going to abbreviate this, even though I know the cameras are here to hear my finance report. But this is the abbreviated April 2025 financial summary. Under revenue, federal assistance revenue came in over budget for the month, $207,607. And we were over budget for the year. We are over budget for the year, $1,002,891. Under operating revenue category, we are under budget by 132,867, but I found out that was just because we have a delay in posting of interest for last month, which will be reflected next month. But under budget for the year, 214,213. And passenger service revenue was under budget by 25,483 and under budget for the year, 265,613. For all revenue, the agency is over budget by 52,366 for the month of April and over budget by $529,309 for the year. Then turning to expenditures, I'm just going to read the major categories. Personnel services. Personnel services category is under budget by $331,788 for the month of April and under budget for the year, $3,433,955. And then on other services and charges, for the month, under budget by $236,310 for the month. And then for the year, we're under budget, $9,438,488. Again, the bulk of that was a carryover of unexpended contract from last year. And then materials and supplies for the month, under budget, $314,205. And then under budget for the year, $1,343,481. And all total expenditures came in under budget for the month, $882,303. And for the year, we're under budget, $14,215,924. There were no non-budget requests last month. And Mr. Chair, that concludes my report. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. There's one quick update. We were able to go out to the market and sell bonds, the 125. We actually, for the 125 million offering, we've got, I think about, what was it, Mr. Chairman, 1.4 billion in request. Yeah. Yeah, we had the pleasure of our finance chair joining us for that morning. And
Bart brought this up because I want to thank him for all his hard work. He got a real wrench thrown at him. When we first went out to market, it was the day the president announced his Trump tariff plan and the bond market went nuts. And so we had to pull that offering and Bart worked with our friends at Stifel to reschedule it. And I was amazed at the amount of interest in our paper. We had one offering for literally 98% of it was 100, was Bart 124 million?
yeah, it was just under 100, just over 124 million offer.
So, so congratulations, Bart. Great job. I didn't want to steal your thunder, but I just
No, I appreciate that. And we were happy to have you there and the whole team, our legal team and our budget team, Justin Burko. And then, of course, Fagre was our bond counsel. And we did it through the INEPS Bond Bank. And I think they were all in all that. They had never seen it. It was 10 times subscribed of what we needed. So very happy about that. And the all-in interest rate is 4.27. And we're trying to stay at on 4.5. So we accomplished that. And that's my report, Mr. Chair. Happy to answer any questions.
Any other questions or comments? Our bond rating is very high too.
Yeah, we are one notch under the highest.
Yeah.
AA minus. Yeah, that helped quite a bit.
That's fabulous. Well, great job again, everybody involved. Okay. Next is item I2, and that is proposed fair policy update, and that'll be done by Brooke Thomas, our Chief Development Officer.
Thank you. Brooke Thomas, Chief Development Officer. It is evening, right? So good evening, members of the board. I do not have a formal presentation for you today. This is largely because we're at the very beginning of a months-long process to go out and talk to our riders and talk to our community partners, talk amongst ourselves to get their input on our proposed fare policy changes. My information item today focuses on the proposed fare rate adjustments for both fixed route and paratransit. 2009 was the last time that we increased our base fare rate. It's $1.75 for full fare. The next time we kind of talked about fares was in 2019 when we adopted our 2019 fare policy. We introduced our e-fare collection system and made a a slew of other changes, like we introduced the 2-hour free transfer, with daily and weekly fare capping, free rides for veterans, some other stuff, et cetera, et cetera. But we didn't raise the base fare rate at that time, right? It stayed at $1.75. The next time that fares were discussed in length with our community was in September 2021, when we adopted the Beyond the ADA policy. That includes those premium rates that we have for the area outside of the ADA area. We weren't considering a fixed route base adjustment at that time, so that held the paratransit ADA area rate at $3.50. That's $3.50. We're now proposing updates to both fare policies, and this time we would like to include adjustments to the base fare rates. It's been over 15 years, and inflationary increases have caused the costs of our goods and services to go up over the last 15 years, and those are things that we need to deliver the services that we do. The proposal, if you will, would be an effective date of January 1, 2026. So if adopted, that's the date that the new fare rates would go into effect. Fixed route, I'll talk about first. That's for both local bus and bus rapid transit. So the 2-hour unlimited, if you will, would go from $1.75 to $2.75. 1 day, and that's for the full fare rate. 1 day would go from $4 to $6, and 1 week would go from $15.75 to $24.75. Moving on to Indigo Access, that's our paratransit service. The ADA area would go from $3.50 to $5.50. The premium area, when you schedule your service ahead, would go from $7 to $11. And then the premium area same-day service would go from $10 to $15. Included in your meeting materials is a draft of what our new fare policy document could look like. It includes all these rates that I've just mentioned, as well as some more detail. Also included is an explanation of kind of all of the changes between 2019 to what we're proposing, and then a draft fare equity analysis for your consideration. All of this is draft, of course, because we need to see how the next several months go before we finalize what the new rates would be. In the information item, these are your board milestones, if you will. So today, just sharing that staff has this recommendation and asking you all that we be allowed to kick off this public outreach process. June, we would hold a public hearing, hopefully hear from our constituents. July is when we would conclude the formal outreach process so that we could finalize all these documents that you have drafts of. August 21st is when we would ask for you to consider and approve a new fare policy and the fare equity analysis. And then September through December would be a renewed public outreach, another surge of public outreach to inform the public of whatever changes are coming. And then, like I'd mentioned earlier, January 1 would be the effective date for whatever we decide. So nothing to decide today. Just receive this information and allow us to kick off the public outreach process. I'm here with several of my colleagues today. Happy to answer any questions you have about this information item. My colleague Carrie is here to share kind of what that outreach is going to look like.
Before Carrie starts, do we need to vote this? To vote to allow them to move forward, or are we just?
No.
We're just gonna let it go? Okay.
Hello, thank you, Brooke. I'm Carrie Black, the Chief Public Affairs Officer. So a big part of this campaign is making sure that we hear back from our riders and that we hear from the community. We as the leadership team are very interested in what people have to say and how our riders will be impacted. And I know that all of you have expressed the same as our board of directors and want to hear and want people to be able to understand the proposal council and share their thoughts. So to do this, we do have a robust outreach plan to engage the community, starting with briefing our elected officials. So that has been ongoing leading up to today. There have been a number of internal briefings, including our local union leadership, our middle management leaders, as well as a teammate town hall that will be conducted tomorrow morning to ensure all of our Indigo teammates are aware and understand. And then partner briefings, making sure our grant partners with the Indigo Foundation are fully looped in so they can share with their clients. Indigo Access paratransit partners, our limited English proficiency partners, and then our transit partners. And then on top of all of that, we have a long list of public community meetings. So that includes a virtual community meeting starting on June the 3rd, and then about 14 in-person community meetings all throughout the community through most of the month of June, where we will explain the proposal and we will again answer questions and then accept their feedback. We will do some outreach directly to the riders at the transit center and on board buses to make sure that our riders are hearing it directly from the horse's mouth, so to speak, and they're also being informed of the engagement opportunities. And then I think finally, we've created a Value of Transit webpage that is live now on our website at indigo.net that lays out all the things, including a PowerPoint presentation, FAQs, and then there's also an electronic form where people, again, can leave their feedback and share their thoughts and let us know how these changes could impact them. Any questions about that?
Thank you very much. We know this is.
Mr. Chair, pardon me, I'm sorry. A point of order. I think there is just one more item on the agenda, and that's acceptance of the department reports. So at the very end of your agenda.
Move we accept the department reports.
You don't have a need to have a formal vote. You usually just acknowledge they've been accepted. That's all. So for the record, yes. And now you can adjourn. Sorry.
Yeah. Let's do it, man.